that we can be here together discussing this the most elevated science of loving devotion. Srila Prabhupada taught us how to serve Krishna with love and devotion by his own perfect example. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prasharine Nirvishesha Shunyavari Pashata Deshatarine. He kindly gave us the Nectar of Devotion. What's happening here? He gave us a Nectar of Devotion, which is a summary of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, compiled by Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadam Ayam Dadati Svapadantikam. Srila Rupa Goswami was the leader of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. We worship these 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan in our altars, every place in our society. They are our eternal Shiksha Gurus, our eternal teachers. Vanchakalpatarubhyacha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. They have written so extensively on this science of devotion by following the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is the original teacher of the science of loving devotion. He came to this material world to relish this loving devotion and to distribute it to all of us, the most fortunate souls of Kali Yuga. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. As we know, is none other than Radha and Krishna combined, the highest manifestation of love of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay. Nana Shastra Vicharane Kanipuno Sadharma Samstapako Lokanamita Karino Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanya Karo Radha Krishna Padara Vinda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopalako. Beautiful, beautiful bhajan to the 6 Goswamis. We offer our respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Raghunatha Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunatha Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizing and studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all humanity, all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the 3 worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of, because they absorb in a mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. So we are here because we want to attain pure love for Krishna. This is our goal. We are very ambitious, we could say. But this is the right ambition, to be loving servants of the Supreme Lord. This is the highest perfection, the highest attainment. Prema Pumarto Maham, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give us this highest achievement, Prema Bhakti. So if you really want to practice nicely this science of devotion, then we have to know what means this pure devotional service, how to practice. So we need to understand very well, at least beginning by the meaning. What's the meaning of pure devotional service? Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadyanavritam anukulyena Krishna anushilanam bhaktirutama. Bhaktirutama. This is the highest form of loving devotion. Yeah, there are many other forms of devotion, but this is the highest. And this is what we want to attain. So pure devotional service, this is something that we have to put in our, not just in our memories, but put in our hearts. So at every given moment, we know if we are performing pure devotional service or not. Pure devotional service is an activity intended to please Krishna without ulterior motive and not covered by philosophical or fruitive pursuits. This definition of Srila Rupa Goswami is the key verse for the all Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Each word is so precise that we cannot mistake pure devotional service for anything else. And this definition is not overly exclusive and not overly inclusive. It can be perfectly applied in all stages, in practice and until perfection. So there are three primary characteristics. This is a short quiz. Let's see who is there. Short quiz. We don't have the new where is everybody here? Okay. Let's see. Moksha Lakshmi Mataji. Let's see if you remember one of the primary characteristics of this definition of pure devotional service. We can go back, if you like, we can go back. Here we are in the definition of pure devotional service. What are one of the primary characteristics of this pure devotional service?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I think one of the characteristics is that pure devotional service is an active engagement.
Yeah, it's an active engagement, exactly. It's an active engagement, very good. And what means active engagement for you?
Active engagement means you do your service every day, not just if you only have problems or anything. You have to have your active engagement, the puja, the making of garlands, and all the devotional service that you could do.
Yes, means with your senses, means with your words. You can sing very beautiful, and with your mind also, thinking of Krishna. So we engage with our senses, with our mind, with our words, everything we have. Active, very actively in Krishna service. Yeah, exactly. Another one, anybody remembers another primary characteristic? Okay, going back to the verse. Another one, without being always Moksha Lakshmi, Yuvati Radhika, fresh initiated. What is the other primary characteristic of pure devotional service that we mentioned last time? Maybe you were not there. Madhuri Radha, remember another primary characteristic? Jananivas Prabhu, can you help us? Okay, you're going to have to help us, Ratnavali. Another primary characteristic, the main characteristic of pure devotion service. The main.
Hare Krishna, Ashtaprabhu. It is favorable to Krishna?
Yeah, pure devotional service is for Krishna.
Favorable for Krishna.
Let's just say it's for Krishna. It's for Krishna.
Okay.
That's the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, what you say is also correct. Is also favorable for Krishna. Okay, you already said everything. So these are the primary characteristics. Remember this. This says you have to keep always this in your heart. It's a service. Pure devotional service is a service for Krishna. It's for the pleasure of Krishna. Pure devotional service is an active engagement with our senses, with our mind, with our words. And it has to be executed with favorable intent. Yes. Yes, exactly. Remember this is the first characteristics. So we're going to see them here. We'll review a little bit. Krishna, so the first is meant to please Krishna. It's meant to please Krishna. But we may ask the question, pure devotion service for Krishna. Rupa Goswami said, not for anyone else, just for Krishna, nobody else. How are we going to understand this? If it's too exclusive, then, I mean, what about the devotees? What about my Guru Maharaj? What about Srila Prabhupada? What about all, my family members? If they are devotees, at least. What should we do? What means that? Nobody else. What means nobody else? When you say Krishna, what that means? What that means? Anybody?
Yeah. Ashguru Krishna, Bhishmadev also explains in Bhagavatam that when we say Krishna, Krishna doesn't mean that he is alone. That Krishna always means that he has his entourage, he has his devotees, like that. So when we say for Krishna, that means including also those who are related to Krishna.
Yes, includes all expansions and incarnations of Krishna. That obviously includes his devotees. Yes, include his devotees, particularly his pure devotees, and includes also his paraphernalia, his things that are used in his worship. They are also meant for being served, and also his holy dham. It's holy dham. So Krishna here means Krishna himself and everything that is directly connected in a loving relationship. Because I mean, even though everybody is connected with Krishna, even a demon, does not mean we're going to offer pure devotional service to a demon or to a dead thing, a stone or tree. Well, unless it's Tulasi Devi. But otherwise, yes, it would be too inclusive. Because it's true, Krishna is the source of everything. But we don't say we offer pure devotions to everything, but to things and persons who are directly connected with the Lord in a relationship, in a loving relationship. And that's what it means, yeah. So, and we saw it was anukulyena, you mentioned that, Ratnavali. Anukulyena means favorable intent. Not you now. Does anybody can see, because it seems like a repetition. Srila Rupa Goswami already said pure devotional service is for Krishna. Was the first characteristic. So now why adding this anukulyena, favorable intention, if you already said it's for Krishna? Anybody can say, Bhakta Jinki, are you able to answer this question? Why he has added this word, favorable intent?
It's because you do your devotional service, you do your services, you do your actions that are favorable and pleasing to Krishna.
Yes, yes, you are close. You are very close to the right answer. It should be with the intent. It should be really with the intent to please Krishna, because you could please Krishna by accident. like the demons. Incidentally, they please Krishna because they fight with Krishna, but I mean, they are not serving Krishna with loving devotion for sure, but they please Krishna. But this is not pure devotional service. And we saw on the other side, Mother Yashoda, sometimes it does things that seemingly do not please Krishna, but are with the intent, with a favorable intent to please Krishna. So favorable intent is very important in the definition. So is it something that we really do with the intent, with the desire to please Krishna? It's really premeditated. We want to please Krishna. Very important. That's why he added this anukuli and favorable. Very, very important. And then we saw the secondary characteristics. Anybody remember one of the secondary characteristics? Dr. Jonah, do you remember? Do you remember any of the secondary characteristics?
I'm
Okay,
sorry,
here in
Prabhu,
a verse. Let's see.
I was absent last week, but I'm trying my best to catch up. Just
I
listening.
cannot hear you well.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Can you speak closer to microphone?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I was absent last week. I'm sorry, but I'm trying to catch up, just listening for the night. I'll try later.
I cannot really understand. I don't know if it's my sound here is very low, very, very low, and I don't know why. I'm hearing everyone very low, and my volume is in a maximum.
Hare Krishna, Ashwin, can you hear me?
Can hear you, but not very loud. I don't know why.
I can hear Jonah Mataji, her voice was also clear.
Also clear?
Yes.
Yeah, I also, even your voice is not very loud. It's my system here, I don't know why. I'm in a maximum volume.
Maybe you
To
try
receive.
to go to Zoom's setting.
Same as speaker.
Yeah, you click the what's this, the arrow button beside the mic icon. It will give you a whole setting for the speaker or for
Yeah, I have the speaker, same as system. Same as system. So it should be okay. Okay, let's just continue. Okay, Jonah, can you try again? One of the secondary characteristics.
Hare Krishna, Ashu.
Yes,
Hi.
try.
Yes. Ashu, I was absent last week. I'm sorry. I would love to answer that, but there's nothing that comes to my mind at the moment.
Okay, no problem. No
Thank you,
problem.
Ashu.
We'll find somebody else. Tina,
Hare Krishna.
Tina,
Hare
do you
Krishna.
remember?
Hare Krishna, Ashu Prabhu. Is it Tatasta Lakasanam?
Say it louder.
Tatasta Laksanam.
Yeah, Tatasa Lakshana means secondary characteristics. Yeah, it's true. But can you say one of them? One of the secondary characteristics of pure devotional service in this definition.
Hare Krishna,
Yeah.
Ashu. Can
Okay.
I try?
Okay, try this one. Anyabilasha.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to
Yes.
say.
Should not be should free from any ulterior motive. Do you remember what we mentioned about ulterior motive? Because the original word is anyabilasha. Anyabilasha means any desire than to serve Krishna. This is what you call a material desire. But some material desires, they just pop in and it's not very, very important. They go away. but this motive, material motive, is more dangerous because it's something that we really keep deep in our hearts. It's like a second plan in our lives in approaching devotional service. We have another intentive. It's not just to please Krishna. We want something else, you know. So we have to be free from that. We have to be very careful that our devotional service we don't have any material motive. And the other secondary characteristic, also very important, is should be free from any pursuits of knowledge for liberation, or being attached to the fruits of our work, or be attached to other activities like yoga and all these things, and include that in a process of devotional service. No, devotional service is free from all that. Pure devotional service is just an activity meant to please Krishna. It's an activity meant to please Krishna. Nothing else should be there. Yes, we can use other things to attract people, but when they are attracted to Krishna consciousness, we should engage them in pure loving devotional service to please directly Krishna. Yes, very, very important. So again, let's repeat the translation, so we kind of really keep that in our hearts. Pure devotional service is an activity intended to please Krishna without ulterior motive and not covered by philosophical or fruitive pursuits. Try to memorize this verse, please. Really, try to memorize. It's extremely important, extremely important. And it will be always very helpful in our practice of devotional service. Very, very helpful. Because if we miss any of these characteristics, means we will not be practicing pure devotional service, means we would not attain the ultimate goal of life, which is to obtain love of Krishna. So in order to attain love of Krishna, we have to practice this Uttama Bhakti, pure loving devotional service, or unalloyed devotional service. Means where the motive is only to please Krishna, engage in activities to please Krishna, nothing else, nothing else. Very, very important. And every day we go through the definition. We not go through all the details, but we'll read the definition until it really sinks into your long-term memory, remains there in your heart forever. Until you attain prema. Even in the stage of prema, this understanding is there. So this was part of the introduction. I don't know if any one of you start reading chapter 1. In chapter 1, Srila Rupa Goswami started explaining the characteristics of pure devotional service. We already know the definition, what means pure devotional service. Now we're going to see what is there in pure devotional service, what is there in the package, what is going to be realized, what we're going to experience. And the first one is very, very important, because we are here in this material world. Kleshagni. Kleshagni means freedom, relief from material distress. Relief from material distress. This is very important, because this what disturbs us most in this material world: pain, suffering, distress. It's a big problem. Material existence. If it would not be for suffering, we would be totally attached to this material existence forever. We'll never come out of it. So, but we need to be relieved from distress. And klesha, the word klesha does not mean only distress, but it also means the causes of distress. Because it's not just the pain, the suffering, but what causes us suffering. is going to be eliminated by the process of pure devotional service. So this is the first thing that is going to disappear from our hearts. So let's analyze how it goes. So suffering, we all know, we all suffer. One way or another, we all suffer in this material world, and we're still gonna suffer for a time, probably. So suffering is there, it's always there. So what is the reason? What is the cause of suffering? I ask you this question. Any one of you can answer. What is the cause of our suffering? The direct cause, the real, that most direct cause of our suffering.
Hare Krishna, Ashu Prabhu. This is Takintina. Material enjoyment.
Material enjoyment. Material enjoyment, okay, we could say sinful activities would be the best word. Yeah, because anything that is separated from Krishna is a sinful activity. Material enjoyment is okay, you can use that word. Papam, sinful act. So because we engage in sinful activities unavoidably, even though with the good intentions in trying to enjoy our senses, we are inevitably doing also sinful activities. So certain things may cause us a little material happiness, but mostly we get some sinful reactions because we always doing something wrong when we are trying to satisfy our material desires. Yeah. So this is the first thing, is the sinful activities. These are the direct cause of our suffering. And Moksha Lakshmi, what is the cause of our sinful activities? Why do we do sinful activities? Moksha Lakshmi, are you there?
Hare Krishna, yes, Ashu. I think we commit sinful activities because we want to enjoy apart from Krishna.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, exactly that. Material desire. Because we have material desire, we engage in wrong activities, and because of the wrong activities, we suffer. So now, Bhaktin Jinky, see if you can reply to this one, because it's the most important. What do you think is the reason of our material desire? What causes our material desires? Why do we have material desires?
We have material desires because we want to satisfy the senses, and because of ignorance.
Yes, you said it. You said it. Because of ignorance. Because of ignorance. Now, okay. But what kind of ignorance is that? Is that I don't know how to cook. I don't know how to ride a car. I don't know so many things in this world. And the people tell me I'm in ignorance. I don't know something means I'm ignorant of that knowledge, you know. But what means this avidya, this ignorance? What do you think is the meaning of this ignorance? What kind of ignorance we are talking about here?
Hare Krishna, may I answer this one?
Yes.
This is Madhuri. Is it because we are ignorant about our will nature and our will relationship and the position?
Yes, we have forgotten. We have forgotten that we are servants of Krishna, and as servants of Krishna, we should be always serving Krishna. So because we don't serve Krishna, because of that ignorance, we try to satisfy our material desires. And because we try to satisfy our material desire, we engage in activities that are against the scriptures and cause sinful reactions, and we suffer. So this is the suffering and the different causes, immediate causes and remote cause. The most remote cause is avidya, ignorance. So let's go first to analyze the sinful act, because the sinful act is the direct cause of suffering. We suffer because of sinful act. Here is a series of sinful actions. So when we perform a sinful action, it's naturally there will be a reaction. First, let's say, first is not yet manifested, because like we are suffering today in this lifetime, things that we perform in a previous lifetime, it means it was unmanifested. The reaction was unmanifested for a long period of time, and eventually it became manifested. So this is prarabdha. Prarabdha means it becomes manifest. So this is the reactions. First is non-manifested, because it takes a certain time, like, a disease, you caught a disease, and as a result of catching a disease, immediately we don't suffer anything, like even in COVID, you catch COVID, immediately you don't suffer anything. After a few days, you start feeling pain in your body, and then your breathing start becoming more difficult and goes in chains. So in the beginning, it's not manifest. The disease is already there, the bug is already there, but the reaction is not manifest. But eventually it's going to be manifest. So some sinful reactions are not yet manifested in our lives, and some are already manifested. It means we are already suffering the result. So this is one way of seeing sinful. A more elaborate way, since we speak about unmanifested reactions, there are two types of unmanifested reactions. So non-manifest means we are not yet suffering that reaction. It's there in storage for us. So eventually it's going to become manifest, and we experience directly physical or emotional suffering. This is what we already experience. Those emotional or physical suffering that we experience, now it's already a manifest reaction. So in one sense, we are eliminating that reaction. By suffering, we are ending it. But another problem with the unmanifest reaction is that it creates an indirect suffering, because it increases our sinful tendency. And Srila Prabhupada gives an example. People have a tendency for sex desires, and they engage in sex life, and then they suffer emotional and distress because of that. But the problem, if they would just suffer the emotional distress because of that, that would be okay. But that desire to continue doing sex does not finish. Or people who are addicted to drugs. They take drugs, and then they take too much, and then they go to hospital, and they have to be treated, and they suffer so much. And they even promise they will never touch again the drugs. But then inevitably they go back to sin, because a tendency remains there in the heart. So this is actually very dangerous. If we directly suffer, either physical or emotional, okay, it's gone, it's finished. But if you're going to develop an increased sinful, develop a sinful tendency to do it again and again, this becomes really a serious problem. So it goes like that. You engage in sinful activity, and in the beginning, the reaction is not manifested. Eventually, you're going to develop a sinful tendency because there's as a liking, something that is there, an attachment for that activity. And because of that sinful tendency, we develop a sinful desire. And that, because of sinful desire, we engage in sinful activity. I don't know if you are seeing the scheme at the same time as I'm telling you. I don't know how fast is your connection, but see if you can follow the chart. So it helps you to understand. So from papa and sinful action, so first there is unmanifest reaction. That unmanifest reaction, it gives rise to a sinful tendency in a heart. And because of that sinful tendency in the heart, we develop sinful desires again. And because of sinful desires, we engage again in sinful activities. And right after, there is a reaction that is not yet manifested. So we saw one side. The other side is that the reaction becomes manifest. So when is manifest, is finished, is nice. But if it goes the other side, if you develop a sinful tendency and a sinful desire, and you keep doing the same sinful activity, then not only you suffer, but we develop also sinful tendency and a sinful desire again and again. So it's very dangerous. So suffering is not something that we can really deal with it very easily, there is no material solutions to deal with the problem of material suffering. Any material solutions, they only create further suffering. There is only a spiritual solution for suffering. Only devotional service can eradicate all these stages. So this is the second. The second cause of suffering. Sinful desire. Because of sinful desire, we engage in sinful activity, remember? So sinful desire is there. Here is the sinful desire of Adam and Eve, that they say that's because of them that we have sinful desire, but it's not because of that. Yeah, but there is a sinful desire. A sinful desire is there in the heart. Srila Prabhupada gives the example of Ajamila. Ajamila was very strict performing his Brahminical activities, but sinful desires remain in his heart. And eventually he became attracted to a prostitute and engaged in sinful activities. So we have to be very careful that we uproot our sinful desires. And the only way to uproot our sinful desires is by engaging in pure devotional service. Otherwise, because of sinful desires, we may, and very often we do engage in sinful activities, in wrong activities that cause suffering. And we perpetuate the cycle of suffering. So we should be very careful. So Ajamila was very lucky because by Krishna's arrangement, he gave the name of Narayan to his son. And in his late stage of his life, when he was about to die, he remembered he called for his child. And as he called for his child, Narayana, he remembered Narayana that he was worshipping when he was young. And because of that, he was given a second chance to perfect his life. So the next life he became perfect. Or Srila Prabhupada gives a person like an elephant. An elephant goes inside the river and washes himself very thoroughly, really stay a long time in the river, then comes out and roll on the dust. Or, as we know, most of us, we know because we are from Christian backgrounds, most of you in the Philippines, and myself too, we are from Christian backgrounds, so we remember, I remember, I'm from Catholic background, so we used to go to see the priest on Saturday, I think was on Saturday, to confess. to confess our sinful activities during the week. And the priest would tell us that to offer certain prayers on Sunday, during the Mass. So we offer the prayers and everything, and sometimes they even receive the hostia. So you think, okay, everything is forgiven. But the next week we keep doing the same things. Why? Because the sinful desire was not removed. Yeah, we counteract the sinful, we could say we counteract the sinful reaction. Means we avoid the sinful reaction by undergoing atonement for the sinful reaction. But the sinful desire maintains, so we're gonna do it again and again. So the only way to deal with this, again, sinful desire, is by engaging in pure devotional service. So we saw that avidya, ignorance, is the root cause of suffering. Ignorance of our true identity, that we are Krishna's eternal servant. So because of the avidya, we develop sinful desire. Because of, Srila Prabhupada says, we'll see later. So because of sinful desire, we engage in a sinful action. Because of sinful action, we have unmanifest reaction initially that will become manifested and we suffer. On the other side, from the unmanifest stage, we develop a sinful tendency. And that sinful tendency binds the circle of material engagement. We develop a sinful desire and a sinful activity, and goes on in a circle. So avidya means, as Srila Prabhupada said, as long as one is ignorant about his identity, he is sure to act wrongly and thereby become entangled in material contamination. So this is our ignorance of our identity. Our identity, we are eternal servants of Krishna. Krishna das anudas. We are eternal servants of Krishna. This is our constitutional position. So if we forget our identity, naturally we are going to engage in sinful activities. So the conclusion is that devotional service eradicates all the reactions. It nullifies the sinful desires and the sinful actions. Everything goes away. It counteracts the material tendencies, the sinful tendencies, destroyed, finished. And most important, it uproots ignorance. It goes away, ignorance, no more. And this is the only pure devotional service, the only efficient and successful way to really achieve permanent relief from all suffering, permanent relief. And then the next stage will be subhada, attainment of auspiciousness. We're going to see this next week. Then the result of stopping suffering and the causes of suffering, our lives become auspicious. So, but now we are going to deal with comments and reflections and questions, if there are any, and we can take this time for this. Is 6:50. So we have about 10-15 minutes to discuss. So either questions, immature and mature kinds of sinful activities. This was previously. So any reflection or any question with this, or comments on this last section we studied?
Hare Krishna, Ashu.
Yes.
I think now in this section, you mentioned that when we perform devotional service, our sinful activities will be kind of like how to say, removed, or
Yes.
yeah. So how can we balance that? We don't perform devotional service just by thinking this way, because at the beginning, you were discussing that to perform devotional service is to offer it to Krishna. But now somehow we're discussing that devotional service can also like rectify our past sinful activities.
I lost you.
Hare Krishna, Ashu.
Okay, I'm hearing you nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so how can we like balance between performing devotional service by thinking of Krishna and not by thinking to rectify our sinful activities?
No, we don't need to separately uh, I'm hearing my voice. There's always something in my system. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, Ashu can hear.
Okay, so we are not practicing devotional service does not mean that we are going just to concentrate on avoiding sinful activities. Certainly you have to do that. That's why we follow rules and particular regulations, to avoid certain most damaging sinful activities. So we promised that right in the beginning of initiation. But then, yes, the material desires are there, the tendency for sinful activities are there. But how are you going to deal with that? We cannot deal with those things separately. No, I am not going to commit this sinful activity again. I'm not going. No, you cannot. You have to have the positive engagement of devotional service. The more we are engaged in pure devotional service, the less our material desires are going to have a weight in our lives. So it's just a question of more engagement in devotional service, more in terms of quantity and quality of our devotional service, better chanting, more reading, better association, more service, better service. So in this way, we can counteract our material desires. Because if the main thing is ignorance. So ignorance makes us forget that we are Krishna's servants. So because we forget that we are Krishna's servants,
Ashu, you got muted.
can you hear me?
Yes, Ashu, now we could hear you.
Kishore, can you hear me?
Yes, Ashu can hear.
Okay. So as I was saying, the whole thing is because we forget Krishna, we forget that our life is meant for Krishna's service. So any moments we forget Krishna, we can be caught by all those material desires that have been there throughout many lifetimes. So the more we engage in Krishna's service, in different forms of devotional service, with our senses, with our mind, with our words, the more chances we are to always remember Krishna. Because remember, in the practice of Vedic sadhana bhakti, or I don't know if you already spoke about this. No, we're going to speak about this later. In sadhana bhakti, the main purpose is to always remember Krishna. So if we are always engaged in different practices, so we have good chances to always remember Krishna, remember that we are his servants. So in that way, we're gonna be in a situation where our material desires become without any consequence. They don't disturb us. They may pop in, but we don't satisfy them. Right now, we're still struggling. We're still struggling because we are very neophyte. So we are, like we say, balanced between doing devotional service and try to avoid sinful activities. But it doesn't really work much. It works only as when we increase either the volume or the quality of our devotional service. The more we do, the best we do, practice our devotional service, suffering is going to diminish. And all these tendencies, the causes of suffering, as we're going to see later, it's going to manifest mainly at the stage of nishta, steadiness in devotional service. Means when we be free from all anarthas, from all unwanted things, because material desires and material tendencies, sinful tendencies, it's all anarthas, unwanted things. So in a process of devotional service, we have to go through this stage of anartha nivriti, dealing with unwanted things, and it takes time. And the only way to deal with these anarthas is to increase our devotional service in terms of quantity and mainly quality of our devotional service. So we are practicing. So in practice is naturally that sometimes we fall back. Then when you pick up again, so it's a struggle. It's a struggle. But we struggle more than any person in the material world in terms of struggling internally, more than any person in the material world in one sense. People struggle because of wanted of material things and not be able to satisfy their material desire. There's a lot of struggle outside. But internal struggle, the devotees have a lot of that because we are trying to finish in one lifetime with all the sinful reaction, all that sinful tendencies that we have accumulated for many lifetimes. We want to do everything in one single lifetime. So it takes a lot of struggle. But it's a good struggle. It's a good struggle. But sometimes, because it's a struggle, sometimes can be painful. That because material desire keep popping in and that tendency coming, and we cannot just say, no, I will not do this again. It's not enough. It's not enough. It's like fighting against material energy. We are losers. We cannot fight against material energy. We can only take Krishna, take on the side of Krishna and be protected by Krishna against these material tendencies. There's no other way, only by taking shelter of Krishna in pure devotional service. So that's why we focus so much on the definition, because that's the main thing. Pure devotional service, we should be always engaging our senses, our minds and words in Krishna's service for the pleasure of Krishna. But we tend to not do that all the time. Yes, sometimes we do it, but sometimes we have to deal. We also want to deal with our material desire, with our things, independent from Krishna. And then we get into trouble. It's obvious, because we feel connected with one of the causes of our suffering, either ignorance, we forget Krishna, or develop a material desire, or engage in a sinful activity and suffer. So we are not going to deal with suffering independently. We cannot deal with our material desires independently, or the material activities independently. We cannot. We can try, and for some time you may be able to succeed. But unless we engage more in pure devotional service, these tendencies will be always there.
Thank you.
So yeah?
Oh, I was just saying thank you.
Say it again.
I was just saying thank you, Ashu. And also there are comments from the chat box. I think these are reflections.
Yeah. Okay, there's Moksha Lakshmi Yeah, we are suffering because in ignorance our constitution that we are servants of Lord Krishna. Yes, this is the main problem. That's the root cause. We forget that we are servants of Krishna and we want to serve our senses, or we want others to serve our senses. And that's where you get in trouble. We want to be in a position of enjoyers. And that's the problem. So the root cause of ignorance, and devotional service really deals with the root cause, ignorance. We are eternal loving service, and here what we have to do, so many things we have to do for the pleasure of Krishna. But in Jinki, we need to remove the sinful desires from the heart. As long as the heart is not clear, one will tend to repeat sinful activities like a never-ending cycle. And to purify the sinful desires from the heart, we need to engage ourselves in an alloyed devotional service. Exactly. This is to be always aware that we are Krishna's servants. Once we forget we are Krishna's servants and we engage in our own service of our senses, service of our bodies and minds, we get into trouble. So the only way to deal with all these, direct or remote causes is to deal with the original cause, ignorance. And only pure devotional service can deal with the root cause. That's why we study. See, it's a tough job. It's a tough job, but the result is the most wonderful result. Is that we not only become free from all suffering, free from all miseries, free from all material desire, material tendencies, we become lovers of Krishna. This is what we want to attain. It's not just to remove suffering. Yes, immediately we want to get rid of suffering. It's true. We want to get rid of, and it will come. It will come immediately as a bonus for our engagement in pure devotion service, but we have to become steady. Ratnavali, thank you very much. My takeaway is that the root cause of our suffering is forgetfulness of Krishna. And to solve all types of problems, we only need to remember Krishna by doing practical service and follow the instructions of the spiritual mass in association of devotees. Exactly. It's just what we have to do. Because our problem is forgetfulness. Yes, it is forgetfulness. Well, I'm aware of these things because I could not hear before very well. Yes, we have to be aware of this here.
Hare Krishna, Ashu.
Yes, Radhacharan Prabhu.
Thank you for your class tonight. And one takeaway also I want to share is, like you have mentioned, to remove the start of this cycle. And thank you for showing us the cycle of sin, Ashu. Is the
Was
start
not.
of it? Yes. It was very clear, and the start is ignorance. And in the Nectar of Devotion, it was mentioned that devotion service could remove this ignorance, just like forest fire destroying the snakes.
Burn the serpents of ignorance. Yeah. Prabhupada mentioned, Srila Rupa Goswami, he said one day is the forest fire, the serpents are the first to be burned because they crawl on the ground. So ignorance is like serpents because they bite us, they make us suffering. But by the fire of the pure devotional service, the snakes of ignorance, they are burned away, they are destroyed. Yes, and then our lives become auspicious. That's what we need to come. That's a stage. When you come to the stage of subhadha, auspiciousness, the second characteristic of pure devotional service, then our practice of devotional service goes very easily, without much obstacles. It's from the stage of nishta. From there we get ruchi, get taste. And from taste, we become very fixed, And then the stage of bhava and prema comes just naturally. The main problem is that bhajana kriya and anartha nivriti practice very well, and to the point of getting clearing all the anarthas from our hearts. Anartha, the main anartha is ignorance. Misconceptions, material desires, material tendencies. So when this is removed, yes, then no more sinful activities, no more suffering. So we stop the cycle of suffering. And then when you stop the cycle of suffering, that will become much easier to practice pure devotional service in a most dynamic way, spontaneously. It becomes very spontaneous. Now we have to deal with many anarthas. So it's like crossing a big ocean, But we are in the right boat. We have the right captain. And if you keep on a boat and you follow the instructions of the captain, certainly we're going to cross the ocean of material suffering. It's possible. But we have to just be careful, to not waste time in fruitive activities. And that's why pure devotion service should not be covered by philosophy. It means not trying to just engage in activities to be freed from suffering, or to try to enjoy the results of our devotional service. That becomes fruitive. Anybody else? I cannot hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ashu can hear.
I don't know what happened with my sound today. Be very strange. Can you hear?
Yes.
Can you hear? Okay. Okay, we stop here if there's no more comment or question. So read from the first chapter all these characteristics of pure devotional service. This is very important, and we're going to discuss in detail next time. Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada, Srila
Thank you,
Rupa
Prabhu.
Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari
Hari
Hari Hari
Bol.